Hey there, guys and gals. Welcome to episode 62 of On Fairy Tales. I think this is the longest running series I've ever had on a YouTube channel. Maybe the Saints Row the Third came somewhat close, but this is a long series. I just wanted to let you guys know this episode is definitely going to be about holidays. I told you about last Christmas, but there are so many other weird holiday shenanigans that have gone on that I want to talk about them in this episode.
When someone meets my family, they inevitably ask, "How are you, you?" Why is that, you ask? Have I got a story for you?
Okay, so again, we're gonna just rewind time. So pre-pandemic times, not last year, which was sad, or I guess technically this year. New Year's Eve is kind of special for me because I have a big party, and I use that term very loosely because I'm not supposed to have a party. People just show up at my house. So you may have hung out with us on Twitch in previous years. We have a tradition now where we all stream. But originally, when I was a kid growing up, my mom used to host this New Year's Eve party. And during this New Year's Eve party, some of my neighbors would come over, a couple of my friends, a bunch of my family would come over, and we'd all celebrate New Year's Eve together. And that was a weird inflection. New Year's Eve. What it should have sounded like. Whatever. Y'all know I'm weird anyway. When I was little, my mom used to have these big parties in the house, invite family members, neighbors, some of my friends would come over. One of them being Andrew. You would know him as Knox or Piano Knox. Though these days, most of the other group, except the core Atomic Fury members, refer to him as Blandrew because there's 800 Andrews now, and he's the black one, so he's Blandrew. Anyway, when I was little, he was one of my friends growing up, when I was real little, so he used to come to the old New Year's Eve parties. My favorite moment ever with him when we were little, though, is that there's this one time, as you know, he just falls asleep randomly. He goes to sleep. When he's tired, he's asleep. This was a weird sleep schedule, so everyone has to get used to that with him. But one year he came over for the New Year's Eve party. He fell asleep. And one of my neighbors, growing up, she's the nicest lady, but she's racist in that, endearing old person way where, they don't know any better. And, they don't mean to be hurtful. It's just, the way that they talk and the way that they were raised makes them sound bad. And she was talking about how she just had some work done on her house, but she never refers to black people as black people or African Americans or anything like that. She calls them the blackies. And I know that sounds horrible, but if you've ever met this old lady, you know she has there's not a bone of hatred in her body. It's just the way that she was raised. And even if you're don't call them that. That's not a good thing to call people. She'll be I'll try, but she'll forget immediately. Andrew's asleep. He passed out, on the floor in my old living room. Passed out. And my neighbor is talking to my mom about how she had some work done on her house by the blackies. And, she just keeps saying it. And everyone else pretty much knew her already at the party, so we don't bat an eye. You just get used to old people saying bad things because it's the way they are. And at one point, she says it, and now Andrew's technically not a light sleeper, but she says it at one point, and he fucking rockets up. He's laying straight down. I'm telling you, I'm moving stuff because you know something's about to happen. This boy hears, the blackies worked on my house. He's dead asleep, and all of a sudden, the blackies were working on my house. And this boy, what did she say? Who's saying that? What's going on? It was just comedy gold. And I remember my sister coming over and being the man, she was she's just old. She doesn't mean anything bad by it or anything. That's just the way she talks. And he was yeah, okay. And they just went back to sleep. And that was amazing. But, so Andrew used to come to these old parties. And when we got to high school, my mom like stopped doing them. There weren't enough people who wanted to come over and celebrate and what have you. So I hadn't had like a New Year's Eve party in a while. But for some reason, I think this Andrew story is exactly what I told Grim. I'm gonna try. I said in the previous episode to use people's real names as long as they're okay with it. Grim is still like, no, call me Grim. So I'm gonna call him Grim, though I'm pretty sure a lot of you already know his real name. Whatever. Grim was like, he called me up. It was like December. He called me up. He's like, hey, I'm gonna come over for your New Year's Eve party. And I was like, my what? He's like, oh, I heard every year you have a New Year's Eve party, so I'm just gonna come. And Stefan's coming too, who you might know as DT or Jack, and we're just gonna be there. So a bunch of my friends just like showed up at my house on New Year's Eve, and I was like, okay, I wasn't really planning on doing anything, but if you guys want to come over, like, I'm not gonna. Grim's like, yo, I heard you had great parties on New Year's Eve, and it's a tradition, so I'm coming. And even though I told him we hadn't in years, it became a thing. New Year's Eve, people just come to my house. I don't even invite people anymore. It's just they're like, yo, I'm coming over for New Year's, and I'm like, okay, and they come and we have a good time. That's fine. It's just Grim like felt like he had that fear of missing out. He's like, I'm gonna show up for these parties, even though the parties don't exist anymore. So because of Grim and Stefan specifically, I now have New Year's Eve parties every year, minus pandemic years because nobody wants to come. So, whatever, what can I say? Pandemic's affecting a lot of stuff. Hopefully, by the end of this year, more people will want to come. Like, hopefully, we'll all get to hang out a little bit more together because honestly, that's what everybody needs. Okay, so speaking of Andrew, who I think in order to differentiate him in these episodes so you know it's not anybody else, I'm going to call him Drewski because that's usually what we call him, like in person. Partially because of Stefan one time was like, Drewski Booski. And from then on, it just became you call him Drewski and then you add whatever else weird after his name. You know, like it's just a magic fucking nickname that came about. So occasionally someone will be like, hey, yo, Drewski Baba Dooski! Or we'll just add a whole bunch of random shit after Drewski, and that's how you know it's him. So I'm probably just going to call him Drewski to differentiate him from the bajillion other Andrews that we know. Yes, if you're wondering, there is in fact a Wandrew, but it is not because he is white. It is because he's from work. He works at the same place as me, so we call him Wandrew. Yes, the W is for work, Andrew, but it's also because he's white when compared to Blandrew, or Drewski, if you will. These names are going to end up getting confusing. I'm sorry. We have a lot of people with the same name. I can't do anything about that. So, anyway, at the 2K19 New Year's Eve party, as I've explained to you, Drewski falls asleep, like at a moment's notice. Just out, gone. So him and Dan, aka the Laundry King, who you've probably heard a couple things from, especially from season 2, which was the school years. The two of them used to just pass out at a moment's notice. And when they would come to New Year's Eve parties, they would both generally be asleep for the actual New Year happening. They would go to sleep before that, and they'd wake up in like the middle of the night. Usually Dan goes back to sleep, but Drewski just dies. Like, oh, 2K19 rolls around. At like 8:30 p.m., Dan went to sleep. Done. And I think around like 9:10, we're like in the middle of a conversation with Drewski, and all of a sudden he's just like, okay. And he's out cold. So he misses the New Year's celebration. I believe Dan did as well. But I do remember walking upstairs and just finding pillows all over my fucking living room. He just like removed every fucking pillow from every couch for no reason. Like he just hates pillows and none of us can figure it out. But anyway, so Drewski missed like the New Year's celebration. And at like 3:30 a.m., me and Heather, you probably know as Oxford Comma, we are fucking tired as shit. And we come upstairs. We're like on our way to my room, but Drewski wakes up and he comes in ahead of us. And we're like, what? and like he is raring to go because he slept for like the last 6.5 hours. So he's raring to go, and like as he cuts ahead of us as we're walking towards like this room, as you know, Heather usually sleeps over there. I sleep over here. He like cuts me off, and he's holding pizza. I think he had a beer, but I'm not 100% sure. It was some kind of drink. He's holding pizza. I swear to you, he cuts me off to get ahead of me, comes into my room, gets under the covers, and starts eating pizza in my bed. And I'm like, why? Why? Why have you done this? And like, he is just ready to keep partying. And me and Heather are like, oh, I just want to die. He's just so pumped. He eats his pizza in peace. Doesn't let anybody bother him. Doesn't let anyone move. Just keeps drinking and talking. And the two of us are like, I want to sleep. And so he finishes what he's doing. And that's like 2 hours have gone by. We are just at this point. And finally, he's like, okay, I'm going to go back to sleep. I'll see you guys in the morning. And we got up like 5 hours later, and the two of us were fucking. But we all decided as a group that we're gonna go out and get food together. I think we wanted to go. We decided that the people who slept over, because generally speaking, people sleep over at the New Year's Eve party because it's late when the party's over. You don't want to send someone home, especially if they've been drinking or anything like that. Don't drink and drive. Especially for that, they sleep over. So we had a bunch of people who slept over, and we decided we were going to go out to eat. In addition, Teth and Forever Kimberly, that is Will and Forever Kimberly, I was supposed to meet up with on New Year's Day, later in the day. So we get up. Everybody's dead. Nobody wants to go out and do things, but like, okay, we're going to go eat. And we decide that as a group, I think it was Steph, Heather, me, Drewski, I think there's one other person, but I'm not 100% sure. We decided we're going to go get Japanese food. We wanted like sushi or, yes, sushi, but also tempura and a whole bunch of other stuff. Whatever. So, no, this isn't a paid sponsorship or anything. I'm just saying. Best place to get like sushi and tempura and all that jazz. But Bonsai did so well that now there's a Bonsai 2 and a Bonsai 3. Bonsai 1, great. This is apparently turning into a food review, I'm sorry. Bonsai 1, great. Bonsai 2 sucks. Not even like it's a dirty place or anything, but I don't know who's in the kitchen back there, but they suck at making Japanese food. It's gross. And then Bonsai 3 is like it's okay. But if you can go to Bonsai 1, there's no point in going to Bonsai 3. I'm like, okay, we're going to go to Bonsai, but in order to get to Bonsai, you have to pass Bonsai 2. I'm like, don't stop at Bonsai 2. Just keep going, because Bonsai is further away. Just keep going. Don't stop at Bonsai 2. Bonsai 2 sucks. So, Stefan and Drewski get in the car, and they take off. I get a call from them. They're like, okay, we're at Bonsai 2. Everyone in our car is like, why? We told you not to go to Bonsai 2. And they're like, well, it was here, so we stopped. And we're like, okay. And I think at this point, we hung up with each other because we assumed that meant we were going to go, everyone was supposed to go to Bonsai. But we get another call, they're like, so where are we going? Like, why are you like this? So our car has to go to the Bonsai 2 parking lot to get Stefan and Drewski and be like, we're going to Bonsai, just follow us. So we end up going to Bonsai. We have a great meal. Everything's fine. At the end of the meal, right before they ask for a check, Drewski does this thing where he's like, yo, can I get a beer? And we're like, what, a dessert beer? And he's like, yeah. So he ends up getting, I don't think it was a Kirin, but he gets some Japanese beer. And he's like, oh, you guys don't want a beer too? It's just me? Okay. And he proceeds to nurse this beer for like an hour. And all the rest of us are like, why God are we still here? Just very slowly soaking up the mood and the ambiance, nurses this beer. Like one sip every 3 minutes. and just chat. And the rest of us are like, I want to go home. And me, being the idiot I am, had previously made plans to meet them at a Golden Corral that opened, actually reopened, because it opened. They apparently left all their food in the food trucks, didn't bring anything in, and they didn't have any food, so they shut down. And Golden Corral, as a company, was like, "You will never open in the Dutchess County again. You will never open in the Hudson Valley again. How dare you?" And then, like a year later, they reopened with new management. So I don't know what that threat was all about at any point, or whatever. I told them, "Oh, I'll meet you guys at like 4 p.m. at the Golden Corral on New Year's Day," which was fucking stupid of me, because that meant I just ate, and then I had to go to a buffet, and I have little self-control, so I'm gonna keep eating. And I was just like, I was already from being awake, and then I was full, and then I had to drive people home, because Heather can't drive, as you know. Heather's Oxford comma. If I didn't say that already, you probably have seen her in many videos and what have you on the other channel. Actually, on this one too, for some Nerf stuff. Back on track. I ended up going to eat again, like 2 hours later, and I was just like, then instead of it was and it was just a whirlwind fucking New Year's Eve day party thing. Like, oh man, that was a crazy year for me. But speaking of these amazing moments, my bestie, who is Mike, you guys know him as Bacon or Crazy Bacon. We've done videos on our channel many times. I don't think. Oh no, he's been in some Nerf videos here. He has been on this channel before. One of my favorite New Year's Eve moments that I'll never forget is one year, him and his girlfriend at the time, when the clock struck midnight, they both kissed me on either cheek, which was fucking adorable. It was so cute. And so we have some good times. There was also a time, one year, his girlfriend at the time got super drunk. I had like a pile of clean laundry that was all neatly folded and what have you. And she got wasted. And for some reason, I guess because my pile of clean laundry was still warm, she just like climbed into my laundry pile. And I was like, but it was clean. Why have you done this? She just like rolled around. You know, like a puppy when they get on their back and they're like, and they're having fun and they want to rub up against everything. She literally just rolled around in my underwear, and it became this running joke that his girlfriend had rolled around in my underwear, to the point where we made a joke about it publicly on Facebook, and Mike's mom commented and was like, "Take this down. It makes her sound awful." He was like, "No, I think it's pretty funny." And I was like, "It is pretty funny. I had a girl roll around in my underwear." I think it was also the 2K19 party, but at midnight on the dot. Since Heather had never had this happen, like she's never had a kiss on New Year's Eve, and Grim never had. She was like, "You want to kiss me on New Year's?" We were all like, "What just happened?" He was like, "I guess." And he gave her a kiss on the cheek at New Year's, and we were like, "Oh!" We all got to see it. Kiss for him. Oh, it's so cute. It's so cute. I think this is the first year that Heather's best friend had come to visit, but after Heather had asked Grim, Heather's best friend was like, "Do you want to kiss at midnight?" And like, I was having a completely different conversation, but I turned to her and I was like, "No." And I went back to what I was doing, and like 3 days later, I was like, "Hey, yo, Heather, did someone ask me if I wanted to kiss at midnight?" And she was like, "Yes." And I was like, "Oh, I did." Like, those words had come in and I had answered them, but I didn't process any of them. I personally have issues with like physical intimacy when it comes to kissing, so not my thing. Like, I wouldn't have done it anyway, but those words came into my ear, did not touch my brain at all. I did not process a single word that came through. I just said no out of reflex and went back to what I was doing. And like, it took me like 3 days to process those words. And that's kind of me as a person. That's just who I am. But in addition, Easter 2019 was also a crazy year because we had my aunt, the crazy one, she stayed over. I know this because I've heard it before, and my mom has said it out loud to other people and what have you. They happen to be over for this. But my aunt, the crazy one, I don't know if it's like an affectation of her medication or what have you, but in the last couple years, she started talking in her sleep. And so I'm used to it because she would sleep in the same room that Heather sleeps in, so it's right next to me. And I can hear it because I'm up all night anyway. It's the middle of the night. I have my headphones on. I'm watching something or other, and I hear like some muffled speaking, and I'm like, oh, my aunt's talking to herself. It's fine. It's fine. I hear her open the door. She has a tiny bladder. So do I. If you know me, I have to pee all the time. She also has a tiny bladder, so I'm used to her getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Or sometimes in the middle of the night, she'll get up, walk to the kitchen, and like drink milk or water, but she'll just sit in the dark, which is a thing I don't. All my aunts, and I'm saying that in a very Italian family way, where they're not actually my aunts, if that makes sense. Like their cousins, whatever times removed. All of my aunts in my family apparently have a thing where they like to sit in my kitchen with the lights off to scare the shit out of me when I walk in there. I don't know why they do that. So I've come down to like get a snack or whatever have you, and found her in the kitchen like drinking milk in the dark. Weird, fucking weird shit. I'm not perturbed by her getting up, but this time it's especially weird because I hear the door open, and then I hear muttering. So I like take my headphones off, and I hear her going like, Matt, 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 which is one of her son's names. She also has a favorite child. That would be Craig. I'm saying their names out loud because I don't have funny nicknames for them. They're just cousins. And sorry. Matt? Matt? Question mark. So Matt is the one who stayed, but she has a favorite child. That is Craig. Craig is the one who was like, yo, you're crazy, Ma. I'm peacing out, and left to live in another state. So it's kind of the same situation we have here, where the favorite child does everything right, but doesn't actually, and then pieces out, and is still the fucking favorite child. So she's like, Matt, Matt, Matt. And then it turns to, Craig, Craig! And I'm like, And as it turns into Craig, Craig, I hear her walk down the stairs, and I'm like, And I like, at that point, like, you know when something bad is about to happen, but you're not sure what it is? So, like, you tense up when she starts yelling for Craig. I, like, tense up, and I'm like, oh, what's going to happen? And then I hear her, like, get to the landing, because we live in a split level here. She gets to the middle landing, which is like the main floor of the house. And then I hear a couple more, Craig, Craig, get louder. And then I hear the bad thing that I tensed up for, which is, so I like throw my headset down. I run down to the main floor because I didn't hear her try and go down any further. So I run down to the main floor. I'm like, hello, hello, hello. And I say her name a couple times, like, hello, hello. And there's nothing on the main floor. I walk all the way around the house. I'm like, what the fuck? I walk in the loop around the main floor. Everything's dark. What the fuck? Where is she? Where did she go? And I turn to look at pretty much like the landing downstairs. I'm standing on like the edge of the landing to look downstairs, and I flip the light on. And my aunt is on the floor at the bottom of the stairs.
And then we have this long pause, which feels like an eternity, where I'm staring down at her trying to figure out what to do. And finally, she lifts her head up, and this is what she says.
I fell down the stairs.
As if somehow, some way, that's what I've been staring down at her trying to figure out. The next part is unfortunately incredibly difficult for me to act out on my own. But we finally untangle her, and I'm trying to lift her up. I want to make sure everything's okay. And I like grab her hands and we lift, and for some reason she decides this is now the time to swing like a child, like when you hold their arms and you pretend you're a swing with them. She like won't uncurl her legs. And I'm like, we gotta know if something's wrong with them. Like maybe this isn't the best course of action, but you gotta stretch them. Like, you gotta tell me if you can stand or not. I can hold you up if you need me to, but you have to uncurl your legs. And instead, she like curls them up and sticks them to the ottoman. And I'm like, no, put your foot down. You gotta do this for me. I'll hold you up for sure. She's way shorter than me. I'm like, I'll hold you up. You put the legs down. Tell me if you can stand on them. Can you put weight on them? She doesn't say anything during this entire process. Like, we're so close. You got to undo the leg. You got to let the leg go. Let the leg go. And then she poses like she did something great. This was absolutely the most exciting Easter I've ever had with my family. But why can't they just be normal?
Hey there, guys and gals. Thanks so much for watching, as always. If you click the link on the left, you'll be taken to the previous episode. If you click the link on the right, you'll be taken to the playlist where you can watch them all.
I know y'all have heard so much about my gut microbes over the years, but next episode, let's jump in a la Magic School Bus.